Good morning. The valley of the dry bones. The hand of the Lord was on me, and he brought me out by the Spirit of the Lord and set me in the middle of the valley. It was full of bones. He led me back and forth among them, and I saw a great many bones on the floor of the valley, bones that were very dry. And he asked me, Son of man, can these bones live? I said, Sovereign Lord, you alone know. Then he said, Prophesy to these bones and say to them, Dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the Sovereign Lord says to these bones. I will make breath enter them, and you will come to life, and I will attach tendons to you, and make flesh come upon you, and cover you with skin. I will put breath in you, and you will live. Then you will know that I am the Lord. So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, a rattling noise, and the bones came together, bone to bone. Then I looked, and tendons and flesh appeared on them and covered them, but there was no breath in them. Then the Lord said to me, Prophesy to the breath, prophesy, Son of man, and say to it, This is what the Sovereign Lord says. Come, breath, come from the four winds, and breathe into them as he commanded, and breath entered them, and they came to life and stood up on their feet, a great army. Then he said to me, Son of man, these bones are the people of Israel. They say, Our bones are dried up, and our hope is gone, and we're cut off. Therefore prophesy and say to them, This is what the Sovereign Lord says. My people, I'm going to open your graves and bring you up out of them, and I will bring you back to the land of Israel. Then you, my people, will know that I am the Lord when I open your graves and bring you up from them. I will put my spirit on you, and you will live, and you will settle in your own land. Then you will know that I, the Lord, have spoken, and I have done it, declares the Lord. This is the word of the Lord. And thank you, Sunset Ridge Church and Riley, for asking me. Thank you.
Good morning. Please be seated. Thank you all for being here. This is truly a special day. Thank you, old friends, family members. Thank you for being here. We are thrilled and honored to be celebrating this milestone, and we're so glad that you're here with us. Will you please pray with me? Father, what we know not, teach us. What we have not, give us. And what we are not, make us. For your Son's sake, amen. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. At the beginning of our Bible, we hear about the kind of world that God created for his people. And more than that, we hear about the kind of relationship that God enjoyed with his people. We hear about the kind of relationship that those people enjoyed with God. We're told that Adam and Eve could walk alongside God in the cool of the day through the Garden of Eden. They walk together through the trees, through the flowers, through the grass. They hear the birds. They hear the call of the animals. And they get to enjoy together the sort of life and growth that God made just for them. But here, in the story that we just heard in Ezekiel, we find the beauty of the creation story kind of cruelly reversed. Ezekiel gets to walk alongside God, but God is showing him death. God is showing him disorder, decay. And Ezekiel is walking among decomposed bodies that are littered around a valley, and the question hangs in the air: Son of man, can these bones live? Ezekiel was one of the many Israelites who had been brought into exile. He was one of the people who had seen the fall of the homeland, seen the cities sacked and destroyed. And now they're living in this foreign land. The Israelites were cast out of the land that was promised to them. They watched the holy temple get torn down. They were forced to serve the empire that had made that happen, the empire that worships foreign gods, that for whatever reason seems incapable of losing a battle, an empire that seems like it can't be stopped. So you have to admit, a valley full of bones seems like a pretty appropriate metaphor for the people of Israel. Not just wounded, not just shrunken, not just injured. Every hope that the people of Israel could possibly have for their future, dead. And not in the Billy Crystal sense from The Princess Bride, where mostly dead is still partly alive. We're talking dead. Dead and gone. I've walked through a valley like this, and I bet some of you have too. Hopefully not exactly like this, but I think you and I both know there are places where it seems like there is no hope for anything ever coming back to life again. Where all hope, all love, all goodness and faith seem dead in the ground, seem like they're never coming back. Where you wonder whether you'll ever feel alive again. And maybe more importantly, you wonder, where is God through all of this? Let's keep walking through the valley with God and with Ezekiel. As Ezekiel is being shown this, let's call a spade, this creepy place full of death, God asks him this question: Son of man, can these bones live? And this is not what I would consider a good question. You know, if anyone else is asking, that's a very easy answer. No, of course not. Dead things are dead, and dead things stay dead, just like every other dead thing in history has done. It's kind of what dead things do best. But that's not what happens. Ezekiel has a lot of respect for the one asking the question, God, so he sort of punts in his answer. He kind of hedges, and in the process, he creates a hit Beach Boys song, God Only Knows. Can these bones live? Well, God, I guess you'd be the one to be able to tell me that. I have to imagine at this point God is almost laughing. Oh, buddy, watch this. And he gives Ezekiel these weird instructions. I want you to talk to the ruined hopes of Israel. I want you to talk to death. Talk to misery. Talk to hopelessness. Talk to abandonment. Talk to decay. I want you to prophesy to the people away from their homes, the people who are feeling abandoned and lost, the people who feel as if the best days of their lives are behind them and there is no hope of ever seeing them again. You prophesy to these people and you tell them that despite all evidence to the contrary, Despite how it may feel, despite the darkness in which you find yourselves, God is not finished with you. God is still at work in you, even if all you see and all you feel is death and darkness. Because if there is anyone who can make something good out of the mess that we are in, surely that has to be God. One of the most significant lessons that I think we can take from this story, even before the miracle takes place, is that as Ezekiel is walking through these bones, through the darkness, God is walking right beside him. Remember the words of Psalm 23, even when, not if, even when I walk through the valley in the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because you are with me. Death casts a large shadow, and sometimes it feels like we're all alone in it, but maybe we're just too quick to forget who walks beside us. Maybe we forget what he can do in this valley that's surrounded by death. Ezekiel heeds the command. He prophesies God's message of hope. And right in front of his eyes, death becomes life. God says, Ezekiel, this is my people, Israel. They have been hungry for some good news, for some hope, for some sign that I have not abandoned them, and that there is still hope for a future. And it's time. It is time to bring them out of their graves, to put my spirit in them, and to bring them home to the place that was promised to them. Where once there was only death, now I will bring a word of comfort. What I want us to see from this is that the power of God is such that even when the odds are as stacked against him as we can make them, he still brings hope. And even more than this, he brings life. It's only he who can bring life from nothing. It's only he who can call up fresh life from beyond the grave. On our worst days when we feel as if we may never experience hope again, God is just waiting to share that message with us of what he's going to do for us, of what he's going to do with us, of what he's going to do through us. And he wants us to trust that he is up to something good. And he wants us to remember there is no circumstance that we can find ourselves in that would ever stop him from working. What better image could we have as we celebrate 75 years as a church together? What better way to think about what God has done with this faithful community? Because it wasn't that long ago that we were pretty sure we were headed for the grave. There were people who told this church that we wouldn't last much longer. There were people who said that we've done what we can and it's time to make peace with the fact that Sunset Ridge was going away. But there were also people who dared to look for God's presence with us among this threat of death. And there were people convinced that the Spirit of God could still fill our community and lead us to new places. And by the grace of God, we have seen evidence of growth, of life, of newness. And what a treat that we get to share a meal together this afternoon in our new park. What an amazing gift it is to have a coffee trailer where we can meet neighbors. What a joy it's been to partner with Sprout School to see our campus alive with delighted and curious little toddlers. And what a distinct pleasure and honor it is to get to worship alongside this faithful people. Sunset Ridge is a place that trusts the Spirit of God is still among us and can still bring life. It's a place filled with imperfect people doing their best to pursue Jesus in this one little corner of Alamo Heights. And my fervent prayer for this community is that we would be the people with the strength to remember that God is not finished with us, Whatever the odds, however bad life may seem, however inevitable death may appear, God brings hope. God brings life. In a way that we couldn't fathom, in a way that defies odds and logic, he still works. It's what he does. And he will not be stopped. As we celebrate 75 years as a church, let's use this as an occasion to worship. Worship the God who did not quit on us. And let's use it as an occasion to think about what comes next. In the days, the weeks, the years, God willing, ahead, let's continue to passionately pursue his will. Because there's no telling where his Spirit will take us. But I do know one thing: as long as we have God's Spirit filling our lungs, we will testify to who he is. We will proclaim what he has done among us, and we will continue spreading his good news. Who he is, what he's done, and what he may do. There's no telling where it'll be. There's no telling what it'll be. But I'm excited to witness it together. Will you join me now as we stand and sing and praise this God together? We are the people who worship the God who calls life out of death. We are those who have heard the good news that God is not finished with us. And we are those people who have been moved by the Spirit of this living God. May we be a people of confidence, of faith, and of hope, even in times of darkness, oppression, and death. May we be people who look to life and good news. And in all things, may we be people who share this message of hope with those who need it.